the different ways of getting water in. That's kind of fascinating. Oh, I'm Fuzz Crompton. I'm a retired professor of biology.
And I'm Catherine Musinski.
She's trying to get the dog up so you can see the dog. This is Matilda.
This is the famous Matilda.
This is also Matilda and her claim to fame. She was the subject of a study by Crompton and Musinski looking at dog lapping. Okay, watch closely.
As the tongue approaches the liquid, it curls backwards and it expands to form a broad, flat plate. And as the tongue is withdrawn, a column of liquid follows the rapidly withdrawn tongue.
So that's adhesion and inertia at work. And previously it was thought that the water kind of got ladled into the mouth.
Some liquid will fill the spoon-shaped back of the curled tongue.
Turns out that just falls out.
If you look at a bowl after a dog is drunk, there's always liquid all over the place. That's why. Okay.
Mammal tongues are completely different from bird tongues.
That's
Margaret Rubega.
And a few, like me, hadn't even considered the existence of bird tongues.
You know, that's fair. People don't often get a look at the tongues in a bird.
But now you can. Hummingbirds use their tongues for capturing nectar. Rubega and her colleague, Alejandro Rico Guevara, wanted to understand how the tongue worked, so they filmed hummingbirds at feeders and looked at the tongues of dead hummingbird specimens under the microscope, and they found
the bird only has to push the tongue in and out of the beak, and the shape of the tongue interacting with the physics of the fluid does all the rest.
The tongue unfurls in liquid. Those feathery structures, which are flesh coated in keratin, are called...
The technical term is lamellae.
And the non-technical term?
Tongue flaps, tongue fringes. I'm sorry to report that we're sufficiently geeky here in my lab that we actually use the technical term all the time.
The lamellae are shorter at the end of the tongue than towards the middle of the tongue, so when the tongue gets drawn out of the liquid...
They roll up in the same way that a sugar cone that you would put ice cream in is rolled up. And so the tip actually forms a sort of a little cone, which we think helps keep the fluid from falling back out of the tongue as the bird pulls their tongue away.
You may have noticed that the tongue is forked, but that's only true when it's submerged in liquid.
The two tips get stuck together by the surface tension in the fluid that's sort of clinging between them. They just get zipped up as you pull them out.
So what happens next after the hummingbird pulls the tongue back into its beak?
Well, you know, that's the next great big mystery.
Thanks to some barium-laced milk and high-speed X-ray video, that mystery is solved for dogs. Turns out every time the dog sticks its tongue back out for a lap, the water in its mouth is pushed farther back towards the throat.
And you pick up another piece of liquid, and the first lot of liquid that you've pulled in is now transported further back into the throat where it can be swallowed.
It rides it like a conveyor belt, sort of.
You need 3 in there before you swallow.
So if you're wondering why evolutionary biologists care about tongues at all...
You know, everybody likes to focus on sex when they talk about evolution, right? Who has more babies gets into the next generation, and I get that. I'm not arguing with Darwin, but I'm just gonna say that before you can get to sex, you have to eat enough to live. If you don't get fed, you don't get bread. It was great talking to you.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.